Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo Story. The crash of Air India 171 has triggered widespread concern over the Boeing Dreamliner's safety and the emerging media narrative that hints at pilot error. Before the official investigation is complete and the report is out, we expect the report to be out today or tomorrow because it has to be out within a month after the incident took place. Now, selective leaks have focused on the fuel switch being toggled, implying crew mistake. Despite the fact that Boeing's own emergency manual instructs pilots to cut and reset fuel switch in a 12 engine flameout. To discuss more on this, we are today joined by Captain Sam Thomas, President ALPA India. Welcome to Mojo Story, sir. There have been some reports, some select news organizations have put out reports even before the final report. The preliminary findings are out, and based on those reports imply that there's some sort of a human error involved in all of this. But based on what we know so far, does the action to toggle fuel switch indicate pilot error or proper execution of Boeing engine restart protocol? Because it's given to believe that the engine failed and there was an electric failure or an engine failure, and the pilot just switched off the engines and then switched them on. He was just following a protocol. What's the sense that you make of the things that have emerged so far?
Thank you, Zafar. First of all, there is no report out in the public. No report
Right.
has been submitted. This is exactly what we were telling you a month back. This is
Yeah.
what we continue to say. If there is a report which is mandatory in 30 days, that has to be submitted latest by the 30th day by definition. Now, there is nothing that has happened and nobody knows of a report. Now, in the absence of that, what has happened is social media is being used to leak information which appears normal to a normal layperson. Terminologies are used. At the same time, the Wall Street Journal and the other, I forget the name, that has put
Yeah.
out this article hinting at potential pilot error
Yeah.
are very guarded in their words. They are not
Yeah.
wrong. They are very guarded in their words because they are used to doing this. It is the Indian media that has picked up bits and pieces of what they are saying and made a sort of implication that hints at pilot error. Now, the pilots are very, very well trained. We've been training all our lives. Sumit is pretty much of my seniority, and we've flown for in excess of 30 years. We will not make such elementary mistakes. Point one. Be that as it may, there is a suggestion that it was inadvertently turned off. Now, that switch in itself cannot be inadvertently turned off. It has to be a deliberate sort of action to cut off the fuel control switches. Now, point two, going to the checklist. The checklist specifically demands that the fuel cutoff switches are to be put off and then to run. That is to change the EEC and try to restart the engine. That is a checklist as per what Boeing mandates. Pilots are trained day and night to do that. They will not make a mistake so easily on that particular matter. Has this mistake ever happened in history? Maybe. I have not come across somebody cutting off some engine just because he felt like cutting it off. And this is like what we've been pointing out, a narrative that is being set, a selective leak that is being given. And again, I'm saying the Indian media is enamored by Wall Street Journal or any such name that they get, and they believe everything what they are saying. But this is a part of a ploy that we've been stating from the beginning, and that must be checked, and it should not be given any credence to. It's becoming even more serious only because the artificial intelligence is used now, and to generate a report that is seems to be authentic. But Experienced pilots like us can see that in 10 seconds, we'll tell you these are all fake information. They're being
Right.
done to show that we move in the direction of pilot error. It's the
Mm.
easiest one to blame the pilot who's not there. And
And the
cause the
pilots are
issue.
not there. The pilots are not there. They are dead. They can't come up and defend themselves and say tell their story. So it's the easiest way to pass the buck and to put the blame on the pilots.
That is true. And Zafar, as long as we are there as an association, we will do everything in our part to defend our colleagues. And let's not just take that we are here to defend our colleagues. We are saying let the truth come out. If there is an error, there is an error. But wait, why do you choose that? And it's very surprising that somebody can blame a pilot of this seniority to make such an elementary mistake. I don't say that pilots don't make mistakes, but these are childish things that cannot be done. Suppose the pilot is inadvertently turning off a switch. That is a design fault. There should be no critical switch which can be inadvertently turned off, and they should be held accountable. Secondly, if you notice, that article very clearly says Boeing has not issued any airworthiness directive in the recent past. That does not absolve Boeing from the either structural or technical faults. And this 787 is the electrical heavy kind of
Yeah.
airplane. Now, in this 20 seconds, everything has failed. 20-25 seconds that he has had to take all these actions. How are you blaming him because it has been cut off and there has been an interaction? How did this journalist, AAIB doesn't know, all of India doesn't know, how this special journalist has found out this? These are questions that need to be asked.
And the other point is that whatever the pilots did, that was in response to something. There was a problem somewhere and they are just responding. How can we say that the response is the action? It is not the action, it is a reaction to something. Let us first focus on what has happened, then we talk about the reaction.
Very correct. Yes, that, and the checklist very specifically called. If assume now we are all in that speculative realm, and you're saying both the engines failed. Okay, if both the engine failed, the checklist clearly calls for cut the fuel control switches and put them back to when EGT reduces below a particular, put that to run. Press the rat switch for one
Yes.
second.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, it's right there. This
Yeah.
will cycle the EECs and help the
Yeah.
airplane start engine start back again.
So if you can hold this manual for a bit, I'll just read it out from it. If I'll ask my producer to again put it up, it says note cycling both fuel control switch is used during a dual engine failure to reset both EECs. Any further cycling of the fuel control switch during a dual engine start. So what does it
Yeah.
actually say? Whether there is a dual engine failure as a part of the SOP, the pilot
Yes.
just switches off the engines and then switch on again to restart the engine. Now,
Correct.
how will a pilot decipher that it is basically an engine failure or an electric failure? Are there separate indications for that? Understand that it's happened in a matter of a few seconds. In 15
Correct.
seconds, the pilot has to understand that something has happened. It has to register on the pilot. He has to draw a conclusion and he has to react. We know all of this happened in 32 seconds. The moment the flight took off and it crashed. In those 32 seconds, the initial 20 seconds, the flight was all right. It had the initial thrust. So it's the last 15 seconds, less than 15 seconds, that the pilot has to understand that there is a problem and he has to draw a conclusion and find a solution. Now, if there are two types of situations coming up, one is the electric failure and the other is the engine failure. Are the indications different, or what pilot did, even if we don't know, the report will tell about it, even if he switched off the engine and then switched them on again?
See, when you get multiple failures,
Yeah.
even in this 15-20 seconds, what the pilot has to do is to prioritize. What
Yeah.
is my biggest problem? I solve that first, then I go to the other problem. Electrical problem is not as catastrophic as the engine loss of thrust on both engines problem. So if
Yeah.
I hypothetically were to get this situation, I will sort the engine out first, because only if I have engines, I can climb up and then set the electrics or try the checklist for the electrics. It would
Yeah.
be written on the screens and show you that this particular instrument is faulty. Now, when the engines fail, we have some readings of the engines. That's N1, N2, and ITT. These are three readings that will wind down very quickly, indicating a failure of the engine to produce the requisite power. Now, on both sides, it's very, very, very rare. And in case it happens, we are supposed to carry out something called memory items. Like you said, it's a part of the SOP. You have something called a quick reference handbook. Even in the quick reference handbook, you have something called memory items. This belongs to the memory items category, and you cut off the engines and put them back quickly. And that would help, or rather, that would reset what is called the engine electronic control, or EEC. That is one of the main, or rather, the only action that can be taken for a dual engine failure. Now, you must understand what the pilot is going through at this time. Aerodynamics have failed him.
Mm.
The thrust has failed. He has to take all these decisions within the next 20 seconds. Now, he's done all that, and you pull out one little thing in isolation, which again he has done correctly, only to point the entire narrative in the direction of pilot error. That's why we want transparency, and that's why we want you people to fight for us as far as picking
Right.
up these questions are concerned.
We're looking at a situation with rare things happening, right? Two engines could have failed at the simultaneously. Electric failure is never heard of because there are four generators on the machine. And if an electric failure happens, there are four generators, there's always the backup. So the pilot has to prioritize. If he sensed that there is a failure, he would have drawn his assumption or his conclusion that it is the engines which have to be looked into first. That if there is a problem, it could, because even if there's an electric problem, there are four generators. It
Correct.
may not be, it would be very rare that there is an electric problem. So the pilot has to prioritize, and he prioritized accordingly.
Yes. Yes. And there is an APU, then there is a RAT. These are the order in which these. So if they have failed, then it's not just the pilot's. I mean, what he was given at this particular time is one of the worst case scenario in aviation. Nothing can happen worse than this. Yes, there's a structural failure like the MH17, which was shot down by over the Ukraine airspace.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing you can do about it. It's shot
Right.
down by a missile.
Mm.
Beating that, there is nothing worse than this particular scenario that is being uh, played out.
Yeah.
And what we are seeing is not isolated. That's what we've been harping around. That this narrative slowly comes in, and then there is a delay. You will see a delay now. As you saw the delay of mandatory 30 days, you will see a delay over delay over delay, so that the AAIB keeps asking for extensions, and it would be granted. About a year down the line, neither you nor me will have the memory of this crash as vividly as we have it now. So that would be a part wherein you come. Do you remember the Mangalore crash? Do you remember the Calicut crash? Vaguely, yes, we know what happened. So beyond that, this is going to fade in public memory. And we, as an association, firstly, our job is to bring out the truth. Secondly, come what may, we'd like to defend the pilots and give them a fair chance and be their living brothers, so that we put their point of view across as best as we can. We are not here plainly to defend them even if they've made an error. No, that's not the
Right.
case. Because in air crash investigation, the primary job is to find out what happened. In India and most of the Asian countries, what happens? First, you find person to blame, and then everything else
Yeah.
is worked around that. And the insurance companies also find that a little bit more convenient, because then you can close the case. Otherwise, there's going to be cases, worldwide. The one good thing is that there are legal entities from the UK and the US involved. They would do a very good job of getting sort of bringing out a lot of things that have happened, thereby getting their clients much better, what can I say, remuneration as far as insurances are concerned.
Right. You talked about delays, but isn't there a procedure already laid out for that also, that the preliminary report has to be put out in a matter of 1 month and then the final report may take 6 months or so? Do you mean to say that they can ask for an extension and that extension will be granted, and it happened like that also?
Yes, the 30 days mandated is there in paper, but it's rarely followed. And yes, they will keep asking for extensions, because given the expertise that we have in AIB, uh, I don't think even in 10 years they can do it. But that AIB has been a rehabilitation center for a lot of retired Air Force pilots. Now, that itself sort of, it beats the purpose, because if somebody says, I have done a court of inquiry in a MiG-21 crash and an AN-32 crash, these two inquiries have nothing to do with a civilian aircraft and the way civilian aircraft is operated. So we have seen in the past that these have been absolute shams as far as inquiries are concerned. And yes, to your second part of the question, can the extension be asked? Definitely. And the extension, will it be granted? Definitely.
Right. We talked something about the training. You talked about the complex the machine is. Are you concerned that the Boeing 787's increasing complexity may be outpacing emergency preparedness of the pilots?
Well, anytime there is a paradigm shift in technology, this is bound to happen. If you remember, in the 90s, there came an airplane called the Airbus A320. Unfortunately, the first crash of an Airbus A320 happened to be in my city of Bangalore. Now, there again, that was a quantum leap in technology as far as the cockpit was concerned. It was a fly-by-wire airplane. Yes, the
Mm,
Mirage 2000 and the Dassault aircraft were fly-by-wire much before the Concorde was. But in India, that was one of the first fully fly-by-wire airplane that had come into service. When the
mm,
crash happened, they said that the Indians were not up to the mark to fly that modern airplane.
mm.
Again, a, about a couple of weeks later, or rather a couple of months later, I think,
Yeah,
a Europe crash happened with the same A320.
yeah,
Then they sat up to take notice, and that's how it happens. So here again, there is a lot of movement towards automation, which is accepted to quite a bit of the pilots in the world. But electrics, they are there to sort of reduce the weight of the airplane overall, and also provide a lot of redundancies. And basically, they try to make an airplane where you don't need a pilot. That's that every 20 years that will come up. Sometimes
right,
they say you don't need two pilots, you just need one pilot. Then they say you don't even need one pilot. This is exactly what happens. Some systems fail, and most of the time they will uh, sort of equate it to manufacture of driverless cars like Tesla.
yeah,
Now, the driverless cars are manufactured by people who surely have a driving license and have experience of driving on the road with these cars. Similar things happens in the airplane, and from drone technology, you try to move into the airplane technology of pilotless airplanes. There are a lot more variables that come into play, which only pilots know. Again, I'm saying only pilots know. So, by some whiz kid studying in some great university, he may come out with a design, but it doesn't really work.
Right. Before we go further, I want to play a bite of the Boeing. They have in the past accepted that there are missteps and they are not perfect. Let's play that sound bite before we go further.
And I'm committed to continue to work transparently with our regulators and with Congress. Last month, on March 10th, marked the 6th anniversary of the tragic loss of passengers and crew members on Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. I know many victims' family members, as well as those from Lion Air Flight 610, are here today. And I want to extend my personal condolences for the painful loss of their loved ones on our aircraft and offer my pledge to make the necessary changes so this never happens again. Boeing made serious missteps in recent years, and it's unacceptable. In response, we've made sweeping changes to the people, processes, and overall structure of our company. While there's still work ahead, these profound changes are underpinned by deep commitment from all of us to the safety of our products and services. This commitment to aviation goes well beyond Boeing. We play a crucial role in the U.S. economy and the national security, as evidenced by the U.S. Air Force recent selection of Boeing to build the world's first sixth-generation fighter jet, the F-47.
Right. You heard him there. But should Boeing be required to publicly release all technical testing for these types of rare but, you know, catastrophic events that take place?
Absolutely. And their Congress has made them do that. And I appreciate what the present CEO said. But if you notice, this was not the CEO who was there during the crash.
Right.
That gentleman was given a very nice bonus.
Hmm.
And these are all English word play,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, they are sorry. They had like they knew there were errors and they're going to do better. And what did he close by saying? We are selected to form the sixth generation airplane. Good for you.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
when the mistake you made in this passenger airplane, you better pay
Yeah.
for it. And you better
Right.
let that be a lesson that no other manufacturer should get away with. Because
Right.
if you go through the max, what I urge everybody is there is a documentary on in the public domain which speaks of the 737 max crashes
Right.
and which speaks of the whistleblowers speaking on the 787. Please go through it. Don't go by our word. Just watch it before you go to sleep, and then you will know what levels they go to cover up these particular instances. And speaking nicely is one thing. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. You
Yeah.
apologize for your mistakes. Great. Good on you. But please do come forward and take onus
Yeah.
of what you're going to do to the passengers as well. And so that future is not, seen as one of these repetitions of the previous crashes. You did one in Indonesia, and then you repeated that in Ethiopia. If you had been more serious with that Indonesian crash, you would not have; those Ethiopians would have lived. So that's what we are
Right.
saying. We don't want to be counted in the numbers as statistics of your company's, mistakes.
Right. It's fine talking about sixth generation jets, but from the point of view of passengers, also there should be lesson that should be learned. It's not the first time that such a thing has happened. But what do you think? What questions should the public be asking Boeing regulators and investigating agencies right now?
You see, first of all, we do not have that culture in India to ask anybody anything, because to ask someone, you need to know that subject. And the people who know the subject are deliberately excluded. We, as an association, as Alpha India, we've been telling you that we have a parent organization which is worldwide, world renowned, and it's having offices in every country. They have experts. We ourselves can come in as observers so that there is no speculation. A timely brief to the media, and we went out of the way to say that let the media also be involved. Let them also know, so
Hmm.
that There are channels fighting over each other to put a piece of information out there, which they have got from a welder in the Navy, or somebody who sang a song in the Air Force ball, then masquerade as an expert and come and give his opinion on a very ultra-modern airplane. So these are not things that we should be encouraging. What we should do is make the subject matter experts, the associations, a part of this investigation, even as observers. It's fine even if they make it just observers and we don't do any active investigation. That would be a
Right.
first step. Only then. Now, in the US, what happens is that the senators are briefed well by a committee, and they are taught exactly what is to be asked and briefed according to what the prospective answers would be, and then to counter those questions. Here, it would be a tall ask. There is
Mm.
nobody even who can come close.
Yes, you spoke about media. Coming back to the point that we started from, how do you view the way the media has framed the actions of Captain Sumit and Clive based on incomplete and possibly selective leaks so far?
Yeah, that has been very, very irresponsible, not just in this particular case. In every case that we have seen in the last, say, for instance, Sushant Singh Rajput, God knows everybody was blaming everybody, and that creates a lot of buzz. And then social media comes in,
Yeah,
clickbait are there,
yeah,
where people get sort of paid for the number of people who are
yeah.
accessing. Therefore, people are putting out blatant lies. There is no accountability whatsoever for either the social media person or the media in general. So that is something that has to come from within. There is, you cannot keep regulating everybody. So then at the end of the day, it'll become like aviation, which is so over-regulated, you can't do anything. That's another issue that the pilots suffer from. There are so many regulations. If, for everything, the pilot is held faulty. This is not just on an air crash. Anything happens, good or bad, the pilot is suspended. So we had brought out to your notice that there was this urination case in Air India, and why was the pilot suspended? Now, as far as the Indigo case, where the pilot entered turbulence, and he was also suspended. He's still suspended, I think. Now, how do you come across this? What is a pilot supposed to do? Are you going to train him to which cloud to enter, which not to enter? If that is the case, no flights in India is possible. Today in Delhi, if you're going to take off and say stay 20 nautical miles away from every cloud, I'll have to go backwards towards Mongolia then. So I don't know how you can go to Bangalore or any place like that. And India is a very challenging place to fly. Pilots have been trained and they do a brilliant job. Somehow somebody is sitting there, and in our society, it's so important to show that you're doing something, so you punish somebody. I've been to various sort of inquiries where they say, अरे उसको 3 महीने बिठा दो यार, रेस्ट दो लिख देंगे. Then we start screaming, तो ठीक है 1 महीने कर दो उसको, है अच्छा ही रहेगा, थोड़ा रेस्ट भी मिल जाएगा.
Mm.
This kind of thing. गलती क्या की है? No. But at the same time, the armed forces do a brilliant job. That also we have to point out. If you do something good, they reward you. Here in civil, whether we do a good job or we do a bad job, don't think that because things are not coming in the media, the pilots are not doing it. Each flight this season, this is monsoon, this is peak monsoon. When we go from northern India to southern India, we have to navigate extreme weathers. In the northeast, suppose we are doing a Bombay Guwahati flight, extreme weathers have to be negotiated on an hourly basis. Does anybody even look at that pilot? No. But in this entire gamut of things, if he does half a second of something wrong, he's suspended without pay. Then God knows, he's constantly fighting for his license.
Yeah. Transparent and fair inquiry, that's all that you are asking for, rather than these selective media leaks. Captain Sam Thomas, thanks so much for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. We are also waiting for that report. We hope that will be released soon, and we'll keep a track on this story. Thanks so much to our viewers also for joining us and for watching the Mojo story. Thank you.
Pleasure, Zafar. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.